Today we're going to talk about how you can break the COVID bad habits. Are you ready? Because it's time.
You're listening to the Church Digital Sidekick Podcast, part of the TCD Podcast Network.
Hey heroes, my name is Tom Pounder and this is the Church Digital Sidekick Podcast. This is the podcast where I bring on ministry leaders and we talk about how you can do ministry more effectively in this very digital and online world. And we are no strangers to bad habits that we've developed over COVID. Listen, COVID started 2 years ago and we've developed a ton of bad habits, and it's breaking those bad habits that have been really hard. Me in particular, I've had a hard time breaking the COVID bad habits that I developed. And so I brought my friend Cory Sullivan on. Cory's a great friend of the podcast. He's been on a number of times. And we're going to talk about how you can break those COVID bad habits and restore your mental health a little bit. Again, I'm no mental health expert, but I do know that I developed some really bad habits over COVID and I need to break them. So Cory and I discuss a few tips and tricks that you can do to help break your COVID bad habits today. But before we do that, I do want to just highlight the Church Digital. At the Church Digital, we have a ton of great coaching, cohorts, podcasts, and blogs that will encourage you in your life and in your ministry. So if you've never checked out thechurch.digital, go there now. I've got the links in the show notes below. So we would love for you to connect with the Church Digital today. All right, so we're getting ready to get into the interview right now with Cory Sullivan. But before we do that, I do want to highlight this interview took place not just a few weeks ago, but a few months ago. I want to see if you know, based on the discussion Cory and I have, when this conversation happened. If you know, definitely hit me up on Twitter at @TAPounder or email me, or you can just put in the comments section. I would love for you to see when this conversation took place and what the outcome of that conversation was for the rest of the year for that particular topic. All right, so now, without any further ado, let's get into the conversation right now with Cory Sullivan. All right, with me right now is my good buddy, the one and only Cory Sullivan.
Hey, how you doing, Tom?
Good, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm always excited to get on a podcast and hang out and just share some thoughts. And you called me buddy. I didn't know how I felt about it at first, just to be honest with you. And the first thing I thought of was, I ain't your buddy, pal. And there's an old TV show that goes back and forth with that.
I was thinking of that GIF from Burt Reynolds and Smokey the Bandit when it's like 10-4, good buddy. Like, you're my good buddy. Like, no. So yeah.
Well, we are good buddies. It's just odd that you called me that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I won't call you buddy ever again. So just, you don't have to worry.
Okay. Good.
Yeah. So man, how's it going, dude?
Good. I'm actually today's a weird day. I'm going on like 2 hours of sleep. Like, it was like a weird night last night where I just couldn't sleep.
Wow.
But then at the same time, the Buffalo Bills crushed the Kansas City Chiefs. And so it's a good day. I'm a Bills fan, so we've seen some bad days, and I think this is a big hurdle for us as a football team. And I'm not going to rub it into a certain friend's face until we actually win the Super Bowl, and then it's going to get rubbed in his face.
I wonder whose friend that is. I don't know who that person might be. I wonder if he's listening.
His name's Stan. I think he's been on the podcast a little bit too.
Dan's been on the podcast. He's definitely been on the podcast, and he's been our friend. And again, at the time of this recording, the Bills record is what? What is it right now?
3-1.
No, I think
4-1.
4-1. Yeah, 4-1. Because the Cowboys are 4-1 right now, so it's like one of those things.
The Cowboys are a good team. I wouldn't mind a Cowboys-Bills Super Bowl. That would be one for like the 90s. You're gonna have to bring back all the 90 graphics for that one.
Yeah, when the Cowboys won it back-to-back against the Bills. That's great.
Yes, yeah, it happened. All right.
So
moving on now.
When you're listening to this and down the road, it's going to be a few weeks down the road. We'll have to update and see what the record is of the Bills at that point. It's 4-1, and man, they look good.
They do look good. And you mentioned that people might be seeing the video recording of this, and it's just so everyone knows, I'm just sitting in my truck. I'm not driving my truck. That'd be completely unsafe. Don't zoom and drive, people. Don't zoom and drive.
Don't swim and drive. That's good. Well, Cory, I'm glad you're back on the podcast. And I actually like to talk to you about these kind of topics because even though you and I both have a student ministry background, what we're going to talk about involves more than just a student ministry thing. It involves all of us, whether you're a minister or not, but it really applies to us as ministry people because we've gotten into a lot of bad habits. And this is a work-related thing. We, at the very beginning of COVID, we went all in, gangbusters, going crazy. A lot of us had to learn how to do online ministry for the very first time. And because of that, it became all consuming. There was so much that we were doing and we were working insane amount of hours and whatnot. But right now, at this time, we are a year and a half out of that beginning part, and we're still working insane amount of hours. We're still doing things that we can't do. Like for me, for instance,
Yeah.
I wake up in the morning and I'm on my computer and I'm doing stuff. I'm doing work. I have a little breakfast, have a little lunch, have a little dinner, and I keep on working. And a lot of times I work until 9, 10 o'clock at night, only to go to sleep, to come back and keep on working. So we've developed some unhealthy habits. And so, Cory, let's talk a little bit about our mental health. Let's talk about how we know when we're doing well and how we know when we're not doing well. So just kind of let's get this conversation going. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, I think definitely you're doing well just on your mood, right? Like your mood's going to be positive. You're going to be excited to get out of bed. You're going to be excited to engage the world around you. You're going to engage in the activities that you love, right? Like outside of work, right? Like get a hobby if that's you, right? Like we got to engage in the things that bring us life, not just in toil, right? And so I think you're doing well. Some signs of, hey, I've maintained some of those other activities that keep me staying positive, right?
Yeah.
My mood is pretty positive. Not saying you're gonna have bad days or frustrating days or sad days, but overall the trend is that like you're doing well. The secret question to ask is like your spouse or someone that's close to you, like a roommate or a close friend, and say like, and ask them like, hey, how are you doing? Because if you're close to them, you're gonna see some parallels, especially with spouse, right? You're living together, you're married. If they're not doing well, chances are you're not doing super awesome either, even though you might think you are, right? Like something else might be off as well. So asking some of those questions. And just the opposite, like you're unwell by missing some of that stuff, right? You're sleeping in longer, you're missing deadlines, your lack of, care for certain activities. You're not doing the things that brought you joy anymore. You don't have good routines and good habits, right? So your house is cluttered. The food you're eating is all takeout, right? And it just doesn't like clear. I always say like a cluttered house is a cluttered mind, right? It doesn't bring about the focus that we need in some things. And so that's how we kind of know that things aren't going well. And here's the thing is it's all individual. Like I can say, here's some general themes or thoughts, but like if I were to talk to you, Tom, about how I knew you were doing well, right, is I would know, one, the Cowboys are winning, right, and you're doing well. I would know that you're doing well because all your kids are doing well and that they're safe. And so you're doing well. I know you're doing well because I'd ask how work is going, and you would say like, I have some really pretty good, exciting projects that I'm excited about, right? And I would start knowing that you're doing well. I would know you would not be doing well, right? For some of those opposite things. Hey, I'm burdened by like being stressed out at work, or this is happening in my family life. This is like happening in I haven't gone on my walk in, a week. I would like, oh, well, why not? And we figure that out.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I would definitely agree with you on that. There was two things that you said early on in this that really stood out to me. I think one of the ways that I know that I'm also not doing well is when people ask me this question. Hey, so what are your hobbies? Like, what do you like to do? And I'm going to be honest, I don't know what my hobbies are anymore. I used to have like to go out to the driving range. I didn't always go golfing, but I love to go to the driving range. I haven't been to the driving range in years. I've been so consumed with work and what I've been doing that I haven't been to the driving range in years. And when someone asks me
Yeah,
that question of what do you enjoy doing, I have forgotten that about myself, and it
yeah,
depresses me actually.
yeah.
So
And so, and I think that's a big one is like the hobbies, the things that bring you life and bring you joy. And again, this is a personal one. Like you have to ask, you're like, hey, if someone was looking at me, how do they know I was doing well? And what are the signs or things that I'm not going well? Like when I used to be a teacher, and my thing is I have to do something physical every morning. Like whether it's going for a walk or getting a big workout in, like I have to do something physical uh, as soon as I wake up in the morning. And when I was a teacher, my students would know when that didn't happen.
yeah,
They would be like, "You didn't work out today, did you? Or you missed your walk today?" And they would just know based on my tone or my mood or my short. And it was like, "Oh, that's a flag that says like I'm doing well or not doing well." Like
yeah,
that was a thing that I learned that I needed to do every day is early in the morning, do some sort of physical activity.
yeah. Well, and I would agree with you on that. And I think let's talk about this for a quick minute. You and I had this conversation offline. Again, Cory and I are good friends, and we talk almost every day. We'll text or call each other. And you and I were talking about us being needing to be a little selfish too now. Like Cory and I are both big family people. I would describe Cory as someone who cares deeply and passionately about his family. He loves his family, his whole family, and he would do anything for his family. But then I think, and I feel like I am the same way. And sometimes, and I look at myself, I think, okay, I do all this stuff for my family. What am I doing for me? What am I doing to make sure I'm healthy? And again, if you're a family person, there's that conflict that you have in your mind, that war that you have in your mind. I can't do this for me because I have to do this for my family. And that's a great mindset to have, but we do need to be selfish with our time a little bit. Cory, talk to me a little bit about that, being selfish with our time so that, like what you said, so that you can get your workout in or you can get your walk in or whatever it is that brings you that sense of relief.
We have to, I think this is an old, like, I don't like cliches, but it's like, we got to fill our buckets too,
Yeah.
right? Like, taking care of the family, taking care of work stuff, supervising people, you know, you empty yourself out a lot. And so you got to find the time to, do something that recharges you, that resets the battery. Um, Otherwise, you're not going to be as effective, right? Like you challenge me that says like, um, Cory, you said this, like you got to be a little bit selfish and take that time. Otherwise, your son's not going to get the best of you,
Yeah.
right? And I want him to get the best of me, and for him to get the best of me, I got to be at my best. And
Yeah.
for me to be at my best, I got to do a couple of things, right? And it's not an exhaustive, crazy, super long list. It's a few things, and sometimes that means I have to communicate those things to the other people it impacts, like my spouse, right? Sometimes I have to sacrifice one activity over another, right? Sometimes it means I miss seeing my kid for half an hour in the evening, right? Which I don't like doing.
Mhm.
But over the next 18 to 20 years, right, with them, like those things, I still want him to have the best of me. And that means sometimes I got to take the time to make sure my headspace is right.
Yeah. It's the same thing for me. I mean, I need to make sure that I'm getting a workout in or an exercise thing in. I get some alone time. Like, I mean, honestly, sometimes I go to bed a little bit early just to lay in my bed and do a few things for me. But and
Yeah.
I feel guilty about that. But
Yeah.
I also know that I need that me time a little bit so that I can,
And just process the day and process what you want to do and
yep.
like have that think time.
Yep. So you and I talked about this, but let's talk about this a little bit more now and flesh it out a little bit. Okay, so if we know we have to be selfish and we have to take time for ourselves, what does that look like? You mentioned this thought of recharging. Okay,
Yeah.
how does it look like in the course of some days, some months, some years? What does that look like for you?
For me, like, and so the general thought is like, hey, every day you got to be doing one activity to build yourself up. Every week, you know, an activity. Every month, what's the one thing? Every year, what's the one thing? And like as the time frame gets bigger, the what is it gets bigger, right? Like every day I need to do something physical. I try and push it and say every day I gotta do something creative. Like whether that's drawing or just doodling or writing or reading, I have to be doing something creative. And that's what I do on a daily basis. On a weekly basis, right, I'll try and see a friend or like go out to like a coffee shop, like spend quality time with like a friend, not my spouse, just someone that I know and I enjoy. Like on a monthly basis, like I want to have like my family time, my family adventure, like a bigger family adventure on a monthly basis, whether that's like going to a local farm or doing something like that for myself. Like on a monthly basis, I love just going and having like coffee shop time. Like go sit at a coffee shop by myself, journal, read. Like that's something for myself. And then on a yearly thing, I need to do like at least 2 days somewhere by myself. Like, and usually I sneak a day in just from like the work and my work travel. I'm able to do that for a day here or there. Like I used to go to a conference with you and some friends, and that was the big thing that would be like my reset that I would just do for me. And so we see that on like a yearly basis. It's bigger, like it's a vacation or it's a trip or, you know, something that's going to cost you a little bit more. And so trying to find those things that helps kind of create some sort of balance and rhythm into life.
Yeah, I think that's great. I like how you break it down. You got it into the shorter term, every day. What can you be doing something every day? And again, Cory likes to doodle. Cory's very creative. I always remember in staff meetings, when Cory and I were in the same church, Cory would be doodling during staff meetings about like taking notes and doodling at the same time. And it was always cool. He is a very creative person. Maybe you're not creative like that. That's okay. Find out what it is for you. Discover what it is for you. I always enjoyed jogging for a long time. I would go on quick runs, 2-mile runs, almost 3-mile runs, and that would be it for me. Unfortunately, over COVID, I suffered some knee issues and whatnot, and I don't run anymore. Well, I don't run as much anymore, but I walk a lot. And I use that time as an opportunity for God to speak to me and God to minister to me. I'll have headphones on sometimes. I'll be quiet sometimes. I'll listen to podcasts other times. I really use that as me time. And I take about 15 to 20 minutes a day to do that, you know? And so I think that the more that we can really focus on rediscovering who we are and learning more about who we are and what we do and what excites us, is really going to help us recharge and again make us the best us that we can be for our friends and for our family. And I think that makes us great. And again, it causes us to have, you know, long-term success. The healthier we can be now, the better we're going to be down the road in everything that we do.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And even not just in personal lives, but like our work environments that we're in, right? I just listened to a podcast the other day, and I forgot who it was with. It might have been Carey Newhoff, and he was talking about his guest talking about something idea called like white spaces, and like in your meeting calendars that, you know, instead of having an hour meeting, have a 45 to 50-minute meeting, and that 10 minutes in between the next two meetings is your recharge time. You're thinking, you're processing, you're taking your takeaways, and it's like those little things that we can do at work to help us, you know, maintain a balance and be, you know, optimizing our capabilities in all those different avenues.
Yeah, I agree. And so I think that's great because I'm going to be honest, you hit on this earlier, but you talked about, you know, are you sleeping in? Are you missing deadlines and whatnot? I will say another big moment for me, an aha moment for me to know that I was unhealthy was when I would get my alarm, and I wake up at like 5:30 most mornings, and I would hit my alarm and I would literally think, oh man, I got to get up now. Like I just didn't want to get up. And on Sunday mornings, me being a minister, on Sunday mornings I'd wake up and I'd be like, it's Sunday, like in a depressing type of thing,
Yeah.
thinking, oh my gosh, I have to go in there. And it just is not healthy. And the sooner that we can recognize that in us, the better we're going to be.
And and the better you are to start processing it, just like, why do I feel this way? What do I need to shift at work or in my environment or your mind space, right? To like figure and navigate that out. I think a lot of stuff comes down to sleep. Like I was staying up late and waking up early, and all of a sudden, like I'm getting up at like 4:30, 4:45 in the morning routinely, and I like it. Like I like it, but I'm going to bed at like 9 o'clock at night, you know?
That's not the
9,
Cory
9:30.
Sullivan I know.
I know, like the Cory Sullivan you knew would literally, it's not burning the candle from both ends, it's throwing the candle in the oven, right? And just letting the whole thing melt. But I'm learning and I'm trying to grow, but I like my quiet time in the morning, my quiet cup of coffee. I like my, morning devotionals. And by the time I have to get my son up for the day, like I've been up for 2.5 hours already,
Yeah.
and I'm able to get some other stuff done that I need to and just have my quiet moment.
Yeah, I love that. Again, a lot of times I wake up in the early morning to do that quiet time because that's the moment you have that quiet time. And if you're listening to this and you're a parent, you know that again you got to get that quiet time whenever you can get it. Bottom line is that we do need to be taking care of ourselves, and I think we need to be seeking the Lord through this whole time entirely. I love Matthew 6:33, but seek first His kingdom and His righteousness, and all things will be given to you as well. Jesus talked about how He's going to provide for us. He's going to take care of us. Wherever you're at in the spectrum right now, where you're overwhelmed, overworked, and going crazy right now, or you're beginning to have that sense of relief, or you have that sense of relief, God's going to take care of you. If we seek the Lord and ask Him to guide us and direct us, He's going to lead us through it. That we just have to be able to take our pride aside and say, I need help. I need help. And maybe that means going to counseling. I mean, I've been to counseling numerous times, and it's been great to really have someone to
I think we
process.
saw the same counselor for a while.
What's that?
I went to counseling too. I think we saw the same counselor for a while.
Yeah, we did. When you lived in Northern Virginia, yes, we did. So, it's healthy. I mean, again, the counseling, there's so many stupid misconceptions about people who go to counseling or people who do this or that. The reality is, if you don't have anybody to talk to, go see a counselor, someone who's going to listen to you and really guide you through it.
And I would even say, even if you do have someone you can talk to, go
Yes.
see a counselor. They like where a friend can give you advice, a counselor can go deeper with you. A counselor can say, this is where you are and this is where you want to go. These are the steps that you can take to get there.
Yeah.
Right? A friend can just empathize with us and maybe share some good advice from their experience. Or some of those more professionals can say, like, hey, let's dive in a little bit more to some of this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree completely. Well, Cory, as we wrap up, any final thoughts, comments, questions?
I always just want to say, like, what's the one thing that you can do for yourself to make yourself be better, right? Like, is it just taking an inventory of like why you're frustrated or why, like, what emotions you've been feeling lately, right? And saying, I don't want to do that. I want to feel this way. So what changes do you need to make? Right? It doesn't take a lot. It takes you getting quiet and just thinking through, like, how you doing lately, and deciding to, like, hey, maybe I need to make a change on what's one change that you can make, right? One step you can take, and everything else is just momentum.
Yeah. I agree completely. And that's why I had you on the podcast so you can talk about this. I mean, you focus on mental health right now. I mean, in your current job right now, you focus on mental health. So this is important. You've been seeing a lot with teenagers that you've been working with and also adults. So this is an important thing that it won't get any different until we start making the changes and we start adapting and making some changes. Well, Cory, as we wrap up, where can people contact you? How can they get in touch?
It would be at my website's www.rallyyouth.com. And then I'm always on Instagram under big_Sully55
And,
as well.
and explain the Sully thing.
My last name's Sullivan.
Yeah, okay.
Did you say Cory Sullivan in the beginning? Like, what did you think it was?
No, I just always like to refer to it as Monsters Inc., man. It's Monsters Inc. Sully, come on, Monsters Inc. That's such a great movie.
It is. Someone asked, I was in a small group the other day, and someone asked, like, those icebreaker questions, or like, what character are you? I go, well, it makes sense that I'm Sully. Like, I'm probably the same size as him. I have a beard like him, and we share the same name. So there you go.
There you go. That is true. That's great. That's great. So, well, Cory, as always, it's great having you on the podcast. So, thanks so much for being with me today.
Awesome, man. Thanks for having me. Everyone have a great day or whatever's happening in your life today. Awkward goodbyes. Awkward goodbyes.
Awkward goodbyes. There you go. All right, heroes, did you catch what time of year we recorded this podcast or when we recorded the podcast? If you did, definitely let me know at TA Pounders, my Twitter handle, or you can email me or put it in the comment section. I would love to hear, again, if you know when this conversation took place. But more importantly, I want to know what you thought about this. What are you doing right now to break your COVID bad habits? How are you restoring your mental health? Definitely, again, hit me up on Twitter at TA Pounder. I would love to carry this conversation a little bit more because this is a work in progress. I'm working on it every single day, trying to restore my mental health and break these bad habits that I developed. And I would love to see what you're doing to break those COVID bad habits in your life as well. All right, heroes, so thanks so much for being with me today. As always, if you enjoyed the podcast, go and subscribe to it. It's on YouTube, it's on iTunes, it's on Spotify, it's on theChurch.digital, along with all the other podcasts and vlogs that we have on there. Definitely would love for you to subscribe to it and listen to it. We've got new podcast episodes coming out every single Thursday, so we'd love for you to be in tune with that. All right, heroes, well, I hope you have a great rest of your day, a great rest of your week, and until next time, have a great one.